Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight with another video that's going to help support you through the police recruitment process. Now, if you've got an assessment process, recruitment process coming up with the Metropolitan Police, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, Dyfed Powys Police, North Yorkshire Police, and by the time you're watching this, many other forces as well, you may have seen the introduction of role plays as a way of assessing your behaviours, your ability for the role of a constable. And role plays are a really good way of doing this because they can see you in action. But to approach the role plays, you need a structured approach, one that's going to work. So in this video, in this podcast, I'm going to talk to you about a method that has helped thousands of people just like you to master role plays, to score really highly and completely nail it. And the structure, if you can see it behind me if you're watching this on video, is CUDSAR. So I'm also going to explain the CUDSAR process. Now I'm not going to explain all of it because it would be a really long podcast stroke video. It'd be well in excess of what I normally do. But if you want to find out all of the fine detail, then check the links below to my courses, where you will also get the second part of this video where I'm going to talk a little bit about the detail in respect of solutions. You'll also be able to access my practice role plays, so you can actually practice in the comfort of your own home, as long as you've got a partner, friend, relative, someone who's actually going to role play with you. And if you really want to go for it, do what so many of my clients are doing at the moment, which is one-to-one coaching with me. No, you don't actually have to attend York, where we operate from. You can do role plays via Zoom, and they're really effective. And oh my goodness, the amount of people who are just so unprepared for role plays. You don't know what's hit you until I'm there acting just like one of the role players is going to act. So what sort of scenarios are you going to get? Well, they can change all the time, because this isn't something that's set by the College of Policing. This is something that forces choose to make up as a part of the assessment process on top of the online assessment centre. What I can tell you is the Metropolitan Police run 2 interactive exercises, as they call them, although I think on the website, I think they're still calling it an interview phase. It's not an interview. I know, police recruitment's really confusing. Whenever you hear the word interactive, what they really mean is role play. North Yorkshire Police are calling them micro exercises. There used to be 2 written exercises, now it's a written exercise and a role play. Dyfed Powys, they're just calling them good old-fashioned role plays. Other forces, well, I don't know which other forces are going to start doing these, but as we start coming out of COVID, I know that they're going to start using these again, because like I said, they're a really good effective way of determining how you're going to behave when you're in front of someone who's not entirely compliant. So for the Metropolitan Police, there's 2 role plays. One of them is going to be dealing with a neighbourhood type dispute, and the other one is dealing with a vulnerable person. And it doesn't really matter what they throw at you. This method that I'm going to explain now, CUDSAR, completely nails it every time. It's a script for you to utilise in any role play scenario. And actually, once you get into the police, it's a really good script to deal with any type of conflict or any type of inquiry or complaint that anyone's got. You'll see how it works in a moment when I explain it. Where does CUDSAR come from? And what does it stand for? Well, it comes from the world of public order policing from back in the 90s. It's also something that we were taught and shown and encouraged to utilise on my police trainers course in 1996. Yes, I am showing my age. I was a sergeant in 1994 and joined the police in 1985. So I've been involved in this sector now for 37 years. And I've actually been coaching and supporting people and helping people to succeed in interviews, promotion boards and such like for 26 years now. Past 11 years, adding to that track record for those of you who are going to join the police. There's about 13,000 people are in the police as a result of my support now, which is just amazing. Something which is just incredible. Whenever I think about the numbers, wow. Anyway, they did the hard work. All I did was show them the way. So anyway, to CUDSAR. What it stands for is confront, understand, define and summarise, solutions, assess and monitor, and result. So if you're watching this on the video, you can kind of see some of it behind you, behind me there on the whiteboard. The confront stage. Okay, so what we're going to do right at the very start, it doesn't matter what they say, because invariably the role player is going to say something to try and wind you up. We're going to confront them. That doesn't mean to say we're going to say, "Oi, stop saying what you can't talk to me like that." Then we're going to confront them by telling them why you're there, what the route map is, what sort of things you're going to be doing whilst you're interacting with them, and what you're hoping to achieve. So that might sound something like, "Good morning, my name's Constable Brendan O'Brien. I'm from Ashridge Police Station in the East Riding Constabulary. I'm here today because we've received a call in respect of some antisocial behaviour that you're experiencing from one of your neighbours. And so I only know a little bit about what's happened, so what I'd like to do, if I can, is to ask you some questions to get some detail about what's happened, and then I'll check with you to make sure that my understanding is correct. From then I'd like to work with you to find some solutions that are both going to stop this happening now, prevent it happening in the future, and see what I can do to help support you in the community that you live in. How does that sound to you?" And they're going to say, "Whatever you think is best. Get on with it then." Or "It's about time you're here." Or whatever it is they say, just ignore it and move on. We move on to the next stage, which is the understand phase. This is where we're going to ask them a series of questions based on our good friends 5WH. In a simple to complex way. We're also going to TED-pie those questions, and we're going to introduce some other little softeners that will help develop and build rapport. So your big opening question is always, "So what happened?" But you don't want to ask it just as a "what happened." We're going to apply TED-pie and some of the little softeners to it by saying, "So I'm just wondering if you could start by explaining to me exactly what happened when the antisocial behaviour from next door took place." So I've introduced a few little softeners there, things like "I'm just wondering," and the TED-pie is "Please can you explain to me exactly." There's the explain, and there's the exactly. The rest of TED-pie, if you want to find out what that little secret is, then join me on one of my courses. The interview course actually has the modules on the role plays, and come and role play with me, and whoever's assessing you will know that you understand TED-pie, the secrets of things like TED-pie. I've put there, it's not ASB. Remember, they're going to say some things intentionally to you as a hook to see if you will probe it to find out a little bit more about what they are actually saying. So if anyone says it's about that antisocial behaviour next door, it's about time you came round, you're going to demonstrate some active listening, and you're going to say something like "antisocial behaviour, you say." Okay, so "Please can you explain to me exactly what you mean by antisocial behaviour?" So we've reflected it back to them, demonstrating active listening, and we've used whatever they've said and our reflecting back to them as a bridge to ask the next question. So anything that's vague is intentionally vague, and it's there for you to probe and find out a little bit more. The key to any problem solving in policing is information. Unless you've got good information from a variety of sources about what's happening, then your solutions are likely to be ineffective. So there's plenty more to this as well. There's all sorts of different styles of questions: catalytic, cathartic questions. When do you ask those questions? How do you follow them up? How do you do things like the Atticus Finch question, and why you should introduce the F word into your questions. There's so much there to cover. Honestly, asking good probing questions is an art form. It really is, it's an art form. So we're then going to move on to the define and summarise stage. This is where we actually summarise back to the role player our understanding of what's happened, and we ask them what it is that we've missed. What have I missed? Is there anything that I've missed? Is a closed question, so you're just going to get a yes or no answer. I would ask the question, so what is it I've missed? Out of everything I've just reflected back to you as my understanding as to what's happened, what have I missed? So a nice open question. Our solutions phase, really important. We want to ask them what they believe the solution will be. They're not going to tell you. It's a role play to see what ideas you come up with. And so whenever you ask the question, what's your ideal solution? What does success look like? What's your idea about what would this situation be like once it's resolved? They're just going to say something like, well, I'm hoping you can share that with me, or I thought you'd have those ideas, or why do you think I've called you? They're going to be a little bit in your face, you know. Actually, when I do role plays with my clients, I'm a lot in their face. I want them to be able to deal with me as a role player, so that when they actually go and do the role plays, they just think, oh, that's a walk in the park, there's. It's nothing like what Brendan does with me. So deal with me as a role player, you can deal with anyone. In terms of solutions, one of the things I like to focus on is EPA. So this is something I developed. You're not going to be able to find this in any policing books or policing manuals. It's part of something I developed as a neighbourhood inspector, that whenever we do anything that's enforcement orientated, we need to do something to prevent that thing happening again. Otherwise we just end up dealing with it week in, week out, and that would be the definition of madness, wouldn't it? Albert Einstein said this, that the definition of madness is doing the same thing today that you did yesterday and expecting a different result. So we need to do something different, and that's why we need to put in some preventative measures. The advocacy part is what can we do to help support these individuals and this community to be the best version of itself it can be. This stems from the sort of asset-based problem-solving approach, which a lot of forces seem to have forgotten because of the past decade. They've lost lots of organisational memory as to how to enable citizens in communities to effectively manage the problems that they are experiencing. So EPA, it's actually, we can expand on that. One of the things I often talk about in problem solving is TPAC. So not just enforcement, but trust building, that's a key part. Prevention we just mentioned, advocacy, and also communication. How are we going to communicate our story about what we're doing, our message to the wider community, to wider partners, to get them involved in whatever it is we're doing. TPAC. You're not going to find that anywhere else neither, it's just a Brendanism. Okay, so once we've delivered some solutions, and if you're one of my clients, go to the interview course Facebook group, and also onto the interview course, where you'll find the second video in this series when I talk a little bit more about questioning style, and also I give you some examples of the things that you can say in terms of enforcement, prevention, advocacy. And don't worry about the competency and values framework. You don't need to know your competencies for this. If you follow this process and introduce these kind of solutions and use the sort of questions that I advocate in the sort of order I advocate, the competencies and values will just fall out the sky. Honestly, you will score so highly. Next part, you can't see it on because it's down below on the whiteboard there, but next part is assess and monitor, because there's no point in you introducing something as a solution and then not indicating how you're going to assess and monitor your progress as you deal with it. There's some great lines you can use here that you can just replay over and over again in role plays. Shall I share one with you? Yeah, I'll share one of them with you. So you could say something along the lines of, so once we've started to implement those solutions, one of the things I'd like to do is to come back and visit you maybe in a week's time, so I can give you an update as to what we're doing and how that implementation of the solutions is going. And really importantly, one of the things I'd like to do is to get a feel for how we are doing. So it's really important I get some feedback from you as to how you feel we are doing in terms of implementing these solutions on your behalf. So something like that. We're assessing and monitoring what we're doing. Really key, really important. Last part of CUDSAR is the R. This is where you just finish off by saying, I'm absolutely certain that once we've implemented these solutions, then we're going to get the required result, which is. So you're describing at the very end of it what success looks like and reminding the role player that this is the success that you wanted, this is what we're going to work towards. So there you go, folks. CUDSAR, it works every time. And you'll be able to find that you'll be able to utilize this as a police officer. So many of my clients have gone on to say that they keep utilizing this model in operational policing because it just works so well. We've gone full circle. It comes from the 1990s anyway. It's a good, can I say it? It's an old-fashioned way of policing. Old-fashioned. Feels like yesterday to me. Anyway, CUDSAR works every time. It's such a good model. It's such a good structured approach. And when you add the detail to it, you're going to score really highly. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video, this podcast. Check the links below to find out more about my courses that are going to guarantee that you pass. Yes, I do guarantee it. If you do the hard work and you don't pass, I'll give you a refund. How fair is that? I don't think I can be fairer, can I? You've actually got to do the work though. If you don't do the work, if you don't put the practice in, If you don't pay attention to what I say, then you might pass, but you might not. I want to guarantee that you pass. I'm all in on this journey with you. I want to make sure that you pass. So check the links below to that, and also check the links below to the Facebook groups. The Facebook group for those of you hoping to join the police and who are actually in the police already is now almost 20,000 strong. And there's also a Facebook group for those of you who are exclusively in the police as constables, police regular constables, and that is over 4,000 strong. So we're doing really well there. What a magnificent, magnificent set of communities helping to support each other through recruitment and also beyond into your career. Check the links below, come and join us, and I'll see you at the next one, folks. Bye-bye for now.